Ricky FUNEZ, thank you very much for coming on to the BoxingBar.com, amigo.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me over, having me on.
And Ricky, it feels kind of crazy, first of all. I mean, it's nice to finally get to talk to you, even though we mess around online, we joke around on Facebook all the time, and probably offend everybody around. But it's great to have you on and be a guest, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're always playing hard to get, so you're always having different people, different trainers, different fighters. But I'm the last one here, man, to be on your show.
But it don't laughing matter, man. Last week in Angel, California, man, in that fight between Hugo the Boston Tenno from Oxnard and Angel Osuna ended with a bad twist. Let's start in chronological order. How was it that you got this job in training Hugo in the first place, who I'm sure you know that I've been supporting for a long time?
You know what? I got a call from Joel de la Hoya, which is Hugo Centeno's manager, and he had brought another fighter, which is his name is Julian Ramirez. They call him El Camarón. He had brought him probably like 8 months ago for Joe to train him, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it didn't work out or so forth, whatever. And a month ago, Joe de la Hoya called me. He goes, "Hey Ricky, I got this fighter named Hugo Centeno." I go, "I need a trainer for him, and I believe you're able to fit in with him." And I didn't really know who he was. I've heard of Hugo, but until started doing some more research and watching some of his fights, well, okay, pretty decent kid. And he goes, "I need a trainer for him. You interested?" And who doesn't want an undefeated fighter? Took on the job, and I said, "Yeah, man." So as soon as I started training him, we get a call saying that he's going to fight this kid, named Angel Osuna, which was a short notice for me to be working with him. Normally, I like working with a fighter, having him like 3 months on the floor. I only had a short camp with him, which it was only 3 weeks, and we prepared for this fight. And he learned a little things here and there, but it was not enough time to teach him what I really want him to know. Everything that I learned and been taught was been by my mentor and my teacher, which is Joe Goosen. And thanks to Joel, he gave me opportunity and I took on it.
And was it hard to translate the skills he already had that pretty much he learned from training here in Oxnard most of his life? Was it pretty hard to translate what he already knew, what he already had, learned to the style that you teach? Was he pretty adaptable to whatever techniques you might have?
Oh yeah, big time. It is kind of difficult and kind of hard because he does have bad habits. I'm not saying that whoever taught him everything that he knows is bad. Every fighter has his own style. I have my style. But like I told Hugo when he came to my gym, I go, "Hugo, listen, I'm going to teach you some stuff. I'm not going to try to change you. I'm not going to try to change your style either. What I'm going to do is going to add another arsenal to your artillery, and it's going to blend in really well." I go, "You could still do what you do, but if you learn how to do what I could teach you, you'll have 2 arsenals, man. And that's going to be great for what you could do best." And it was kind of hard because when we fought Angel Osuna, and let me tell you something, Angel Osuna, a freaking tough fighter, man. He came out to fight and put it on Hugo, and Hugo survived with his mind and his boxing skills, kept Hugo alive. And he did use some of the stuff that we practiced in the gym, but, it wasn't that easy. He fell back still to his abilities, what he knows best, what he's been doing for so many years, for the past 19 fights that he had. So at least the work that we did in our gym, it came just a little bit, not as much as I wanted to, but there's a start, you know what I mean? It was a short camp. It was 3 weeks. And I believe there will be more, hopefully, God willing, more camps with longer preparation.
Like you said, it was a short camp, and he probably, during the fight, reverted back to what he knew before, which is what came to him naturally since he's learned that other technique from prior. But going back to that particular day, and let's say before the fight in the locker room, how did he look to you? How ready were you guys for this fight? How prepared was he for coming into a tough fight, like you said?
He was ready. I was ready. We had a game plan already, what we were going to do. Just remember everything. We might have a game plan, but once you go in there, and you get hit, your game plan changes. You have to be very disciplined. But while we were in the locker room, we were practicing on certain things, just memorizing the stuff we were doing on the floor in our gym. And I told Hugo, "Hey, when you go out there, go have fun and try to take control of the fight. You got to take charge of this fight. And when we went out there, it was the opposite. Angel Suna took charge of the fight. And but you know what? Hugo did a great job. We were losing 7 rounds out of 10 rounds, and the last round, I told Hugo, "Hey, this is your last shot. This is gonna be your first loss if you don't go out here and knock this kid out." And once when I was in that 10th round, it kind of reminded me a lot of in a similar situation when Corrales fought Castillo. You know, Joe Goosen told Corrales, "Hey, you really want to win? You got to go knock this guy out." In a similar situation, I told Hugo, "Hey, you're losing this bout. You're losing this fight, bro. This is gonna be your first loss. I go, you better tie your balls, suck it up, and go knock this kid out." And you know, the revelation came out too. Eventually, it was unfortunate what happened to Angel Suna falling out of the ring. I don't know what happened because both fighters were really exhausted. You know, Angel Suna started putting pressure from round one. He hurt Hugo in the second round, dropped him on the seventh round, and they were going at it, man. You know, fortunately for us, we were losing the rounds, and fortunately for Angel at that last round, we came out victorious. And it's very sad to the situation what's going on with Angel right now. It's very really sad. And you know what? When I saw him fall on that corner, I got kind of teary because I go, "That's sad," because that could have been us. 'Cause we were on that, we were going towards that side. But you know, Hugo, Hugo's experience from those 19 fights just really prevailed that night.
This was pretty much supposed to be another notch on Hugo's belt. I mean, he was a guy walking in with a 19-0 record. You know, Osuna was, I believe, 11-3 or something like that. And from what Joel de la Hoya told me, is that this guy was a tough guy that nobody else wanted to take on. So he was no slouch. What did you see in the last, let's say, few rounds? Did you see something that was, like you said, he was dropped in the seventh round? Hugo was, and but gradually, did you see the momentum kind of changing? Like maybe Osuna start wearing out a little bit in the round before the stoppage. Did you see that gradually turning while you were watching the fight?
Yeah, it's big time. Because from outside, you see a lot of things happening. And one of the things that I learned in the experience, what I learned in my gym and fights, when I told Hugo, this kid does cannot fight going back. If you put a little bit of pressure, you could take this kid. You can make him fold. But you know, Hugo will not do it. He would try it, but then Angel will come and do it his way. And Hugo would just let this kid bully him. And that was not okay with me. I was getting on Hugo's ass. I go, "Hey, you gotta fucking be on this kid's ass, man. You cannot let him go back. You gotta walk him down. You gotta put pressure, use this jab." And one of the things that he kept using that jab, and he kept dropping it, and he kept getting countered by Asuna's right hand. And that's one of the things that I go, "Man, this is gonna be it for us." When I saw that on the eighth round, Hugo started putting a little bit more pressure, and I saw Angel deteriorating his, you know, his skill. I could see him breathing hard. Ninth round came, and I go, "Hey, this you got to keep putting that pressure. You cannot let this kid go by." And then he would try it, but then he would go fall back, going back, dropping his hands. And that's when the tenth round came. I go, "Hey, look, this kid is. You got to go knock him out if you want to win. He's tired. You're tired. If you will push him back, he's gonna fold." And when I told him to do that, I was really surprised that he did it because he is a good listener. And he, you know, by him listening and prevailing what I told him to do, you know, we became very, very victorious on a tough fight that was going towards the opposite corner.
I'm a huge Hugo Centeno supporter. I mean, I told him I was going to be there for this fight. Like I told him that 100 times before, but I've never gone to this fight. But this time I actually was there to see this fight. Me, as well as many in attendance, we all thought he probably won a round, two, maybe three at the most, up until the last round there, of course. Did you see a lot of mistakes that he was making? Did you do you know what to work on now going into his next fights from these mistakes? Something to capitalize on.
Tremendously, big time. There's a lot of mistakes that he was making, a lot of mistakes that he has made in his past fights. Uh, this last fight I saw, it was really tough. Luckily that the referee stopped that cut. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of mistakes that he was making in this fight, dropping his hands, going backwards with his hands down. That's a no-no for me, or for any fighter. It shouldn't be. And that's one of the things where we were practicing in our gym, was keeping our hands up, trying to work in the inside, because he doesn't really know how to fight too much in the inside. He likes to hold but can't work inside. An example that I was giving Hugo was a fight prior to his fight, which was Kirkland and Tapia. Tapia came out really amazing, looking good boxing. But one thing, once Kirkland started putting pressure on him and fighting in the inside, Tapia did not know how to respond to Kirkland. He didn't know how to fight in the inside. And that's one of the things that I've been taught by Joe, how to work in the inside. Because, like anything, like Joe says, one of these days, you could be the smartest, the baddest fighter in the planet, but someone will always going to make you fight in the inside. And if you don't know how to fight in the inside, they're going to eat you out alive, especially with these top dogs at that weight.
And when you're fighting on the inside like that, a lot of people think it's just a physical game, but it's also a mental game as well.
Oh, big time, because you're getting hit. And if you don't know how to counter right or back when you're getting hit, you're going to have a lot of problems. You're going to have your hands full or full plate that night. And one of the things that Hugo surprised me on that 10th round when we got close to Angel, I told, hey, you got to do what we've been doing, man. Practice. And he did the left uppercut and a hook. And he did what he had to do to survive that fight and to win that fight. And people might say or could say, hey, Hugo got lucky. There is no lucky in the sport of boxing. It's like, I'll give you examples of John Molina Jr. with Mickey Bay. He was losing those 10 rounds actually, until John Molina caught Mickey Bay. Same thing with Corrales and Castillo. We were losing that fight with Corrales and Castillo, and Corrales came victorious in the end of the fight. One punch could change the whole fight. That's the whole beauty of having 10 rounds. 10 rounds. Doesn't matter. One punch could change it until you could come victorious with one of those punches.
And you bring that up, and I know one of your good buddies that has a gym here, Robert Garcia, in all his 3 losses, which was Corrales, Bentaki, and Casamayor, all three of them, he was winning on the scorecards up until he got knocked out because he decided to go ahead and try to brawl.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, is amazing when you're able to box in the inside and prevail, man. It's not an easy sport, so a lot of people could say, hey, you got lucky. Hey, no, it's no luck. It's no luck. Taylor and Julio Cesar Chavez. Chavez was losing that fight. He was losing that fight. He came at the end and knocked Taylor out. Hey, that's sport of boxing. He won.
And it's funny you brought that up, man, because that's exactly the fight that I thought of when that knockout came at the end of the 10th round last Friday. And from the reports of ABC there in the Coachella area, I remember when I got back to my hotel room that night, they only talked about 2 fights. They talked about the main event, Josecito, and they talked about Hugo's fight that wasn't even televised. And obviously, the Hugo fight, they brought it up because of what happened to Angel Osuna. And they claimed, and this is something that I didn't see anywhere else, but when he fell, that he hit his head on his way down on the ring bell. Is that something that you saw since it was closer to your corner? I was sitting on the opposite corner of where Ozuna, his people were at. Did you guys see any of that?
You know what? I did not see it. I did not see his head hitting the bell, but I don't think it has nothing to do with the bell. I think it was just dehydration. It could be anything, but mostly the punishment that both fighters were taking inside that ring. Both of them were taking punishment. Angel Osuna hit his head. I don't know if he hit his head so hard, but he got back up and went inside the ring. I think it was just the exhaust, the punches. There was so many punches that he got caught. Both of them were getting hit. Both of them were getting hit, and yeah, it's crazy.
And in Hugo's last fight, when he fought a guy by the last name of Williams, when they fought, a lot of people were thinking that Hugo should have lost or was losing that fight up until there was a technical stoppage there. Hugo was saying that he thought that Williams was he was tiring as the fight was going. So by him saying that and then seeing what happened last week where he wins in the last round, Do you think that's maybe what his game plan was? That he waits till the guys wear out a little bit, and that's when he turns it on?
I don't know. I hope that's not the situation with us. I mean, I don't want to go thinking, oh, we're gonna get these guys tired, because they could be the opposite way. I told Hugo when we go into these fights, in our fight that we had a first fight together, I told him, hey, you go out there, you do your thing, you take charge from round one. You cannot be a slow starter. You cannot wait to see what's going on. If you see a knockout come, you take it, but don't go out there try to chase that knockout. You go out there, you do your thing, you take charge. If once you take charge of round one, you could do the second round, third round, and it's going to get competitive. And that's one of the things with boxing. I don't want him to have that mentality of, oh, I'm going to get my guys tired first. Forget that. I experienced that myself because I'm not saying every fighter is going to be. I was a pro fighter and I didn't have a great record. But my thing was that I'm going to get my guys tired, and I'm the one who was getting tired. And out of my fights,
That's leaving a pretty big door open.
Yeah, big time. You can't. You take charge. I tell my fighter, you take charge from round one. Same thing I tell my nephew. Do not wait there. Do not try to get anybody tired. Let them get tired by you exchanging punches, or you take charge and putting pressure and so forth,
And after the fight, I happened to see Joel de la Hoya out there in the crowd, and he was talking to some people, and I got a chance to talk to him, Hugo's manager, and I asked him, "Will you have Ricky FUNEZ on again training at Tengu's gym? Or after this fight, after seeing what you saw?" He said, "Absolutely." He thought that you did a tremendous job. He saw the improvements that you had done, and he just figured it was a big transition of where Hugo was before to what you teach, and he said it's going to come in time. And coming from a guy, of course, Joel is very experienced with having his brother Oscar being at his corner, and how Oscar switched out on a bunch of trainers. So most likely he knows what he's doing, and he knows what's best for his guys. So having said that, you said you saw a lot of mistakes he was making. How are you going to change Hugo in these coming fights, in the coming months, in the coming years, in the coming time that you have with him? How do you plan on changing this from these mistakes that he was making in this last fight?
Well, one thing, I'm very thankful for Joel, and the experience that he has with Oscar de la Hoya is great. You know what I mean? But that's one of the things I do not agree with. A lot of fighters, they like changing trainers like they do underwears. And you can't learn from one trainer, from another trainer, keep changing every camp. It's not going to work. It does. You're not going to learn nothing, to be honest with you. Hugo Centeno's been with his dad his whole career. And when his dad came, when Joel told me, hey, I go, who used to be his trainer? I mean, was there going to be any problem? Because his dad has been his trainer. I go, all right, cool. So his dad and I, we were on the same page, because there's something that could be some animosity, some jealousy, and so forth in between camps, because his dad has been with him since day one. And
especially when it's a father.
Oh, of course, big time. But you know what? His dad was so cool, and we both got along in the camp. When we're in the corner, I learned there's only one person that speaks, and that's the chief second. And if I like to ask for them for opinion, I like tell me on the floor, but don't yell it out. When we got to the first round, man, like 3 of them were yelling. I go, hey, just let me do all the talking. Let me do it. If I can yell, go ahead and let me give you the okay. But it was really good camp between 3 different people. I had Joel Oscar de la Hoya's cousin working the corner, and his dad, and another guy, which is the cut man, and myself. It was good. The other thing is, I cannot really change Hugo Centeno. I cannot change what he could learn. He has to apply it. I could teach him, and he has to apply it. I'm gonna help him do the transition, but he has to do the changing. And I believe that if he comes, like I told Joel, I go, Joel, I need more time with Hugo. I go, I just don't want to be training Hugo when he's getting ready for a fight. It doesn't work like that. He has to be in the gym, working the floor, working the ropes, doing the weaving, keeping his hands up, and what we do best, is repetitions every day, keeping your hands up, putting him in there against light sparring, heavy sparring, tough sparring. I learned one thing with Joe Goosen, who's taught me. which I do with my nephew. I throw my nephew in there with little kids where he could practice his defense. Not that he's gonna try to hurt these young kids. And I did the same thing with Hugo. I go, Hugo, I'm gonna throw you in with light guys, kids that are unexperienced, so you could keep your hands up. These kids are gonna come and wire at you. You don't have to defend yourself really good, pivoting and parrying their punches and so forth. And that's what I need more with Hugo, so he could learn and learn how to adapt to this style. Because if he has the style that I have with his style, he'll be a machine, and just tying up on certain things that he has of his whole style that he has, keeping
So
his
you
hands up.
pretty much have to break them down and then rebuild them.
Yeah, big time. And with Hugo, I'm breaking him down slow, but bringing and building him up quicker because he is smart. Let me tell you that Hugo is really smart. I tell him to do certain things, and he was doing it like a jiffy. It takes some guys a couple weeks, and it was crazy. It's crazy.
So he naturally has the gifts. He just has to be led in the right way from here on.
Oh, big time. And this fight that he had last week with Angel, he learned a lot. He showed me a lot in the last round. He showed me that he has the heart and the will to win, and it took him that will to win, because you can't teach a fighter to have heart or to have balls, and he taught me that in the last round. I thought in a way, man, what's wrong with this kid? He's 19-0, and he's getting backed up by this guy that should be not experienced, and he's taking advantage of Hugo, an undefeated kid. And the last round, I go, man, okay, this kid has something. This kid has balls, and he has the will to win. And he showed that will that night, because only one could have won that night, and it was Angel. But he won because Hugo had the will to win. He won. He had the desire to win and come out victorious.
And have you heard any updates on the condition of Angel Osuna? Have you heard anything about him?
Yes, prior to you calling me on this line right now, I was just texting back and forth with Antonio Diaz over there in Coachella, who's a former fighter too, former world champion, I believe so, right?
No, yeah, he is. Him, and of course Julio the Kid Diaz.
Yeah, I was just finished texting back and forth with him, asking him how's the kid. And this is here. Let me read the text to you. Actually, what he because we've been going back and forth on how Angel's doing, trying to raise some money for him. And hold on, let me tell you right now. I asked him, "Hey, bro, how's everything over there in Coachella?" He goes, "Everything is good, bro. I went to buy to see Angel today and drop off some money to his family. He opened his eyes now and he moves and responds when you talk to him. He just can't talk. Doctor says he's doing good now." So that's relief from us and for me, you know what I mean? Because it was not looking good yesterday or the day before yesterday. I've been staying in touch with a few people from Coachella, and I'm very concerned because that could have been us, and it could be other fighters. Just a flashback of kind of like Gabriel, and Gabriel fought Jimmy Garcia, and Gabriel Relas is a really good friend of mine. And when that happened to Gabriel, it really traumatized him. It really changed Gabriel's world. And after that incident, Gabriel was not the same. And I was just hoping that this wouldn't happen to Hugo or to me, But thank God that that Angel is responding to what the doctors are doing to him and his surgery. Now we're trying to raise some money for his family. They're in the hospital, not working, and so forth.
And these type of things really touch me, man. The first match I ever saw, I tell people all the time, the first fight I ever saw was, I believe, in August of 1980. I was 5 years old, and it was that fight with Lupe Pintor against Johnny Owen at the Olympic. And Johnny Owen, he collapsed during the fight or at the knockdown, and he died 6 weeks later in the hospital. When I first started this website, I believe the sixth or seventh interviewee was Gabriel Relas. And while we talked, and he brought up the fight with Jimmy Garcia and what happened there and what happened in his life, I pretty much choked up enough to stop the interview, and I had to finish it later on because of how much it was touching me of what happened and from what I remember the first fight I ever saw. And when I saw this last week, last Friday, a week ago today, and I saw what happened, and Angel Zuna was taken out right in front of me. I mean, I was the next person next to him while he was being taken out on the stretcher outside the ring, and I remember looking to my left hand side, where his corner was at, and everybody was wiping their tears, and I started kind of buying up a little bit too, and it touches me to see this stuff, and sure, my guy won, that I want to go root for, that I want to go support, but it doesn't mean that I boo the other person or I wish harm on the other person. It's a sport that you and I love. It's a sport that we have to go through, and watch these guys endure what they endure in that ring. You see it every day in front of you. Gabriel Relis is a good friend, and I'm sure you know the whole story of what happened to him and how he's barely getting his life back together after all those years of being lost. But
Yeah.
it's a great thing what you're doing, and that you do respect the other side and how you're keeping a track with him, with Antonio Diaz and everybody in Coachella, and that you do care about what's going on, man. And it's great to hear, and I'm glad to know that you guys are reaching out to him and his family, especially during this time.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's not easy, and to try to start raising money for him. Some people. I did a video with Ellie Setback, which Ellie Setback is a good friend of mine. Um, he did help me do a video on try to raise money for him. I'm just waiting for the Suna family to and Antonio to give me a bank account. It's gonna be really tough to get a lot of people to donate money, and especially during the holidays. But a few bucks here and there, you know, might mean something a lot. I'm not saying they're gonna get rich by what money we're trying to raise, but it'll be hopefully help something out with their family and for bills or whatever it may be.
Absolutely, just to hear that he was somewhat conscious, that he opened up his eyes, he was looking around. That's more than what we could say for any of the guys of the past.
Yeah, and that's what I really want to do now. Just try to help out with a little that we can. And since day one, I've been a big supporter of Angel. Been keeping touch since I left the fights. Right after the fights, I took off, and I got a call from Herbie Estrada. Herbie goes, Ricky, man, we just found out that the kid is in a coma, that he has a blood clot, and they're gonna try to do surgery tonight. When he told me that, man, it just touched my heart big time. And as soon as I hung up with Herbie, I ended up calling Joe, and Joe Goose, and then we were talking, and he goes, Ricky, man, this Chico is gonna be tough, man. But he was just giving me advice. I'm glad now it's a week from the fight, and I'm glad the Angel's doing well, much better than the tough days that was going through this past week.
And by all means, Ricky, when you find out any kind of account information or link to a website where people can donate, by all means, I'm gonna with this interview, I'm gonna go ahead and post whatever on a page I'm gonna make for you, and hopefully people will click on it and put some money in there and help out in any way. So keep me informed on what's going on, brother.
Oh, most definitely, I will. Thank you.
And Ricky, man, thanks for coming on to theboxbar.com. We've been talking about doing this for a long time. Unfortunately, we had to do this during a time like this. But down the line, man, by all means, I hope to have you on and we can talk about your life at Tengu's Gym, the history of Tengu's Gym, all your experiences as a fighter, as an amateur, and everything in between, man. And hopefully you can come back on and we could talk about that, man.
That'll be great. Also, I would like you, talk about my nephew. Who's fighting January 24th.
Absolutely, we'll plug that, and you as a trainer, of course. Now training Hugo, your nephew Juan FUNEZ, who of course is a great prospect coming up, and he's already getting well known here in Southern California. And by all means, man, we'll do all that and plug that, then.
Beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. And let's stay in touch. And thank you for having me on your station, man, on your radio. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. And remember, everything that Chapin and Rudy Hernandez say about me is not always true, man.
Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I don't care what Rudy Hernandez or Chapin Estrada say about you, bro. I still think you're a cool guy.
No matter what they say, man. Thank you, Ricky. Have a blessed one, man.
Thank you. You too.